For everybody, let me just let you know that there's a link to this database on the library website. If you go to the library website, which is library.pica.army.mil, if you look on the right side of the page, sorry, on the left, there's a list of all the different kinds of resources we have. Click on journals, and then this will be listed under EBSCO Business Source. Go down the list, it'll take you to this database.
Super. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is Judy Aparo from EBSCO, and Lindsay Hutton is also on the phone, and we're both your account managers and here to help you through any questions you have about EBSCO in general. So hopefully you can see my EBScohost screen. If there's any problem with that, please let me know. Basically, just to kind of give you a brief overview is about EBSCO, the company. EBSCO stands for E.B. Stevens Company. It's a family-owned business. There's about 6,000 employees globally, and it is actually a conglomerate. EBSCO Industries owns a number of different businesses, but our group is called EBSCO Information Services, and we're the only organization to provide e-books, paper journals, paper books, databases like aggregate databases, which we're going to talk about today, a discovery solution, and we also have a few other software as a service solutions such as Open Athens. So we are basically a content provider and have worked more recently on the software as a service delivery solutions. If you've used EBSCO before, because many people used it in universities, because we work with all different markets. So there's typically academic, medical, military and government, public libraries, and corporate and government. And if you've used EBSCO in a university in your past life, it's just important to understand that what you're looking at here is EBScohost, which is called the interface, and then the database underneath it is called Business Source Premier. So you could have used a different interface, which would have been EBSCO Discovery, or you could have used either of those interfaces with a lot of different databases within it. So that just means different content and subject areas. So what we're going to talk about today is EBScohost, which is with the Business Source Premier product. One other thing just to mention is that EBSCO is based in Birmingham, Alabama. Our group is based in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and we've been in business for over 75 years. So it's a very financially stable company, and a lot of the employees have been with EBSCO for a very long time. I've been with EBSCO for over 15 years and worked with a few different markets during that. So just to focus a little bit more on what we're going to talk about today, so within the EBScohost platform, I mentioned that you're using Business Source Premier. And Business Source Premier, all the Business Source products in general are one of the most widely used products. The other is our academic search product, which you may have used within your universities or colleges. Business Source Premier has over 570 full text journals, and of those, about half are peer-reviewed journals. So that's one of the things that EBSCO focuses on, is providing you as much full text content as we can, and we consider peer-reviewed content to be the most highly regarded and try to increase the number of peer-reviewed all the time as well. We work with thousands of publishers and we negotiate the rights to pull this content into different databases. So you could get a database on like military and government or international security, or you could get a religion database or a music database. So there's all different subject areas, but this one focuses primarily on business information. You'll notice right here above the search box, there's also regional business news, and that's a product that comes along with the Business Source Premier product. So regional business basically has about 80 regional business publications, both from metro and rural areas. And it has a lot of Cranes communication, which is probably one of the most widely used, but it has also regional papers from like Fort Worth, Texas, Salt Lake City, North Carolina, Arizona, and Orange County, and a number of other regions. The title lists are available for both of these products, and I can share that with you at some point in time. It's on the public-facing marketing website, and anytime you want, we can either steer you there or provide you a link to it, and you can look at all of the different publications that are included. It tells you the start date, whether it's index only or full text. It tells you whether it's considered peer review, who the publisher is, whether it's PDF or not. Most of them are PDF. So all of that information is freely available. What we're looking at right now is the basic search box, and I will also go into this advanced search to show you how to do a more sophisticated search. But I'm just going to start out here and just do a simple search on manufacturing strategies. So there's a lot here on the screen, and I'm going to just walk through some of the stuff with you and take you through it. So you can see that right now you're seeing one of 20 of over 5,600 results, and it happens to be relevancy ranked. So what that means is the most relevant articles fall to the top. However, if you want newest, you can just very easily switch it, or some people prefer to sort by oldest or the source or the author. So what the most relevant means to EBSCOhost, which is something that you can actually Google. You can Google relevancy ranking within EBSCO, and it'll explain it to you a little bit more. But what it generally means is that it's either in the subject headings, or it's within the abstract, or it's within the title of the article. And sometimes within the body of the document, it also relevancy ranks by date as well as source type. So if the source is a peer-reviewed journal versus a book review, it would have a higher relevancy ranking. And it's really not just how many times the search term shows up within the text, because that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most relevant. So it's a very sophisticated algorithm that determines what's considered more relevant than others. So one of the other things I want to point out here is that the first two responses, you can see that there's no PDF there, and beginners to our system often ask that first. So if there isn't a PDF there, it's because we don't have access to it yet, or it hasn't been added to the database yet. However, if there is a PDF, you'll see it right here below, like on the third response. So there's various reasons why there may or may not be a PDF. Don't hesitate to ask at any point in time if you're wondering. I just went into the graphic. The PDF showed you a graphic, and then there's also the HTML full text here. And you can see that this document actually has 23 different images. So you can also see how it has manufacturing in the subject terms. One thing I do want to point out is when I did a search on manufacturing strategies and I didn't actually use quotes there, you'll notice that it can go after documents that have manufacturing. It would also have strategies, but strategies could be like 4 words before it or 4 words after it. So if you want the actual string to be together, you can do a search with quotes. And that will make sure that the terms are exactly manufacturing strategies. The entire term is used within the document. And you can see here that it's changed the number of articles. Another thing to show you here on the left is this is what we call the breadbox here. And so it's showing you that I just did a search on manufacturing strategies. It's also showing you that it's applying equivalent subjects. So that's something that we set up for your account to begin with, and I can explain that a little bit more as we go into the advanced search. You can also see that based on these limiters, we're not just looking at scholarly peer-reviewed, and we're looking at documents from 1982 up to 2020. So this is a date slider that you can slide, And you can also show more, which will give you some other limiters that you can click on to reduce the results at. Also, there's source types here. So if you were interested in primarily academic journals or trade publications, you could click into any one of those and reduce the result set on the query that I just did. You can see there's also a book. There's other kinds of information, and this sorts it by hit count or by the name of the source type. So these are just things that are available within the existing search that you just did, how to reduce it. You can use different subject terms, thesaurus terms, and it tells you how many hits it got in which database as well. There's NAICS code, languages, so sometimes the content's in various languages. You can look at who the different publishers are that have the most information relevant to manufacturing strategies, or what the top titles are that have content that's relevant to manufacturing strategies. Just going to go into advanced search for a minute just to show you a little bit. Actually, maybe before I do that, I should really go into a PDF document. So here, why don't we take a look at this number 7 here, where I'm just going to go in and I'm going to view the actual document. This happens to be a conference paper, and you can see here on the far right, you have the ability to print a document, you can email it to someone, you can save it to folders, which I'm going to explain a little bit more. You can cite the document, or you can export it out to a citation manager, or you can provide someone internally with the URL. You happen to be IP authenticating into Business Source Premier, so anyone within your IP range can have access to it. And also, if you want to send them the link to a specific article, if they're within the IP range, they'll be able to link into what's called a permalink here. The one other thing I want to show you is the citing. I don't know if you're writing papers, but if you are, or need to cite different things, maybe for a presentation, all of the citations are here, and it's super easy to just cut and paste them. Or if you're doing something more extensively, you have a larger number of citations, you're able to export out to a citation manager, which I'll show you afterward as well. But basically here, what's important to realize is that you're in Adobe, you're able to look at the entire document, and you can do all the types of things that you normally do in Adobe here. You can zoom in or out, you can go to different pages. On the left here, it shows you what journal you're in and also the date, and then you're able to hop around into different content, even though it brought you to the page or the area where your search term was found. You can choose another issue within that journal, and you can look at different citations. So I'm just going to go back out to my search, and then I'll just show you the advanced search here. So when we go to advanced search, you can see that a lot of what's here on below the search box are some of the types of things that we just discussed in the result list that were in the left-hand margin. So before EBSCO made the upgrades to be able to have those facets on the left side on the result page, we used to just have these choices here on the advanced search screen. And a lot of users got used to coming over here to make their changes. And so instead of discontinuing this, we just added it in on the result page as well. So it's basically just providing you a couple of different ways to do things. When you set up limiters or expanders, basically these are set up through our EBSCO admin and they're defaulted. So for example, here, yours is defaulted to apply equivalent subjects, but not necessarily related words and not necessarily searching within the full text of the articles. You're also doing a Boolean phrase search, so you're looking for manufacturing strategies and I don't know, you could say automobile or something. But you're doing a Boolean search for all of the different words within your search. Sometimes if you choose like find all my search terms, then it's saying this and this and this and this. And if you're saying find any of my search terms, it's this or this or this. But you can also set that up here where you can and or not the different words together. You have the option here to search within the text, to search an author's name, and it would be last name, comma, first name. You can search with only within the title, like you only want manufacturing strategies to be within the title, or you want it to actually be a subject term within the document, etc. You can search for ISBN numbers, ISN numbers. Down here, you can look at the different ways to expand a search or to limit your search. So sometimes people like to really do a very, very broad search, and then it's easier to kind of narrow down, looking at the different facets on the left, to narrow down and find the more specific information. And sometimes you know very specifically what you want. You might want something with images, you might want something that's a bibliography, or you might be looking for different photographs or charts. You might know the exact date range that you want. You could say, I only want academic journals. I want the content to be within the cover story, or you might have a ticker symbol or a company entity for the company that you're looking for information on the company. So one thing I should mention here, I'm just going to clear this, is that there's all different kinds of documents within the database. So we did mention that there were magazines and journals and a number of different types of books and things like that, news. The other really nice thing about the business databases is that they also have company overviews, industry reports, country economic reports, market research reports, and these are unique to the business source databases, and they're excellent. So I can show you some of that information as well as we go through here. But this is just showing you, based on that search that I just did, you can look at these different types of information. You can also see that when I did a search on automobiles, I got over 569,000 responses. It's obviously a very, very general term, but you can go and narrow down to specifically a specific journal like Auto Week or Wall Street Journal if you want. You can look at only information that's in Spanish or Turkish if you want, and you can look at different NAICS industries. So if you want to look at wholesalers, sorry, jumped around there a little bit, wholesalers, or information about new car dealers or new and used automobile, you can click on any one of these. Let's say I look at automobile manufacturing, and it reduces that large number of articles down to only those. There's also here, you have this set up over here on the right where there's company profiles, and I can just show you what one of these are. Probably should have done the Royal Automobile Club, but you have this set up. Not everybody has that set up on the right, but this is basically just showing you the different company profiles that the term automobile manufacturing shows up in. If you're familiar with MarketLine, these are really excellent reports. They're generally 20 to 30 page reports, and they have information about the company, the competition, geographically where it's based. They're updated at the beginning of the new fiscal year, so each one is updated at a different time frame. But here's kind of the table of contents, who the key employees are, who the top competitors are, what their locations are. These can be publicly held companies, but they can also be privately held companies. There's a really good broad range of different companies that are represented by these MarketLine reports. I use these all the time when I'm looking up an organization or looking up who the competition is. There's a section in it where it says strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you can get a lot of information about the company. You might be looking at it if you're looking for organizations that you want to partner with. You just want to know who else is looking at, let's say, battery or solar energy or things like that. So you can kind of look up different organizations and research information about them, what their different products are, the services that they offer, who their top competitors are, and just an overview of it, how they're doing fiscally, financially. So these are really helpful and very widely used. Yours happened to show up there on the right, and it was specific to my search automobile. But if you go over here, you can just look up company profiles in general. I'm up in the top bar here, and I just chose company profiles, so I could look up any company I want. I spelled it correctly. And I can take a look at, and you can also search by location or industry if you want. But here's another market research report, and it's going to show you some additional information because this one's 74 pages long. So there are different lengths. But what I wanted to show you was there's information about the major products and services, as well as the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is super helpful for evaluating what what areas of growth a company might have, or where they might have weaknesses that you can really help out with. Great way to look for business partners, and great way to look at who might be competing with you. And it also gives you some information, some background information about the key employees. So if you ever were calling on some of these key employees and wanting to look up information about their backgrounds or their experience, you can also just feel more comfortable prior to chatting with them about what their background is and what their strengths are. So I often use that, and then I use LinkedIn as well to kind of marry the two types of content to learn more about the organization and the people within it. So also up here on the top blue bar, you can look at title lists. So I could go into like Business Source Premier Publications and look at the titles for this specific database. And I'm going to look up like Harvard Business Review. And you can see that we have every issue from 1922 to present, PDF and full text. So I can just go over here and click on the title, and then I can see a list of all of the different issues that are available. And I can click into any one of the issues if I want. So the point was that you can search not only by subject areas, but you can also search by journals within or titles within the database. You can, and I just also showed you how you can set up search for company profiles. So one thing I'm going to talk about now are called my EBSCOhost folders, and this is kind of a multi-step approach. So just bear with me for a minute, and hopefully it'll make more sense as we go along. But the first thing, the point of a my EBSCOhost folder is that you can have this virtual area in the cloud where you can save some of your information. Before I talked about exporting content out to a citation manager, or you can set up what's called search alerts or journal alerts. So there's a number of different options available to you that you would use your my EBSCOhost folder for. So this is not to sign into the product, so don't get confused with that, because like I mentioned before, you're IP authenticating to get into the product. But when you sign in here, you're signing into your virtual space. You can use your Google account information if you want, or you can use some additional information, your own username and password. So basically now you can see I've opened up my folder, and just to kind of give you a little bit of feel of what I'm talking about here is now I'm in my folder. So if I wanted to like save specific articles to my folder, or if you were using ebooks, this is where you would check out an ebook, because some ebooks you have to know how many people are using it and whether or not it's already checked out and whether or not it's available. So this is where that would happen. You can also set up like custom folders. So if I'm doing a number of different research projects and I'm looking for information on clean energy one day, and I'm also looking for, say, functional materials another day, I can store those articles in my EBSCOhost folder and basically just hold them in this virtual account. And then when I'm done with the research and I need to build a bibliography, I can automatically export all of the articles that have to do with that certain subject area. So let me just show you a minute here, a little bit what I'm talking about. But so basically, you can see that I've set up a couple of journal alerts and I've set up a couple of search alerts. So this is stuff that is specific to me. And the other benefit of having this virtually in your My EBSCOhost folders is that if one day you're working within one site and another day you're at another site or you're at home, you can still access, if you're on different computers, you can still access the research that you've done. So that's one of the benefits of having the folder. Another, obviously, is that you can kind of customize your content and you can customize your alerts. Basically, alerts are like searches that you've saved, but they automatically run routinely, and then they email you relevant information. So I can show you that as well. So just to go back for a second and show you if I'm doing a search, let's say I'm doing a search on clean energy. If this happens, just know that these are called chevrons. Basically, you can expand that and get your columns back here. Sometimes that happens when you do a search. So if I do a search on clean energy and I'm reviewing the information and all of a sudden I say, hey, I really like this article and I want to save this for later and put it into my EBSCOhost folder. Now that I'm in my EBSCOhost account and it's open, I can click on that and you'll see that all of my different custom folders show up. So now I can save it to clean energy. And then maybe I have an article that I find that has something to do with a different subject area. I can still click on it and put it into, let's say, my project management or my functional materials folder. You can also basically do your whole search here too as well. So if you look at share here, I can say add the results like 1 through 50 to my folder if I want. So I'm going to talk a little bit about alerts, which is part of having a My EBSCOhost folder. So let's say that I'm working on a project and I want any articles that are added to the business source database to be emailed to me if they have anything to do with clean energy, instead of me having to come in every single day and do the search. So EBSCO is constantly adding new content to the database. So if there's a new issue of the review of financial studies, or if there's a new issue of Harvard Business Review or the Entrepreneurship and Regional Development title, every single time there's a new issue, we're adding information into your database. We're maintaining that for you. We're also making sure that it has all the subject headings that are appropriate, author supplied keywords, all different kinds of information. So if I don't want to come in every single day and do my clean energy search, but I do want to be alerted if new content that has to do with clean energy is emailed to me, I can basically set up what's called a journal alert. So right here, I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and create an email alert. The other thing you can do, by the way, is have a persistent link to this specific search. So so if you shared that persistent link to, let's say, some kind of a page that you have, or a post, like let's say you wanted every single time your organization is mentioned in the news and you wanted to post it on your library portal, you could do that search and then you could just copy this whole link and put it into the page. And anytime someone clicked on that, it would automatically look for articles that have to do with your organization. But I'm going to basically just set up a clean energy alert here. And because my EBSCOhost folder is open, it's able to store this alert within my folder. And all that means is that I can go in and I can modify it. So I'm going to call it my clean energy. I can say that the email is from me, or I could say it's from my library if you want to be advertising research that you're doing for the library. So if you know certain people that are working on specific projects and you think that it might be of interest to them and you want to be proactive about it, you could have like your library email here and then have the whole group of people that are working on that specific project included on the email too. I prefer HTML. I just think it looks better. And then you could say, I want this alert to run bi-weekly or once a day or once a week. And I want only articles that are published within the last year. And I typically put detailed here. So when I get my email, it's not just the URL for each article, but it provides a little more detailed information like the abstract. One thing I just want to mention here is articles published within the last year. It took me a while to figure out what this was, because when you get your email alert, you're only getting what's new. The first time it runs, it'll give you all of the articles that have anything to do with clean energy. But the next time, it'll be only what's been newly added. So it seems like it would already be articles published within the last year. But the reality is that EBSCO is often adding in archives as well. We have very deep archives on a lot of the journals. So if you're interested in historical information, then you could say no limit. If you want articles that have been published within the last year, then it would default to that, or you have a little bit more control. So if you said no limit and we added in a number of archives, let's say from like the early 1900s, and they had information about clean energy, then you would get that information in your alert. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's kind of a minor detail, but anyway, so once you go ahead and you say you want to save your alert, then it's actually stored within your ebscohost folder, but the email address that's tied to your ebscohost folder will get an email saying that that alert's been set up. So I'm just going to go back in here and show you that now I have this search alert here, which I had a couple of other ones, and it's going to show you that I had set that up. You can also set up journal alerts, which are specific to a title if you want. So let's say I wanted every time a new issue of Harvard Business Review came out, I wanted to have a table of contents emailed to me about that title. I could set up an alert to do that. Here's my clean energy alert. These were some other alerts that I had in the past, and you can see that they've run a few times, and so it shows you every time it runs. But if you ever want to add people to this alert or delete the alert, you can go in and edit it because it's in your My EBSCOhost folder. So you can go in and change some of the terms or just completely delete it if you want. So that's basically like a search alert, which means that it covers all of the titles or all of the content within the database. And anytime clean energy shows up, I'll be emailed that content. A journal alert is specific to one publication. And the way that you set that up is when I showed you how to do the title list before, you go into the title list and you can just say Harvard Business Review. It happened to be the most widely used title in your search. That's why I keep bringing it up. I was looking at, what titles are important to your organization or have been in the past, and it looks like Harvard Business Review, International Journal of Production Research, Business and Economic Review. Those were the top ones, but obviously there's many used, and that's what's really cool about having an aggregate database is that sometimes there's content and titles that you wouldn't normally search through. But here you can look at the different issues, or if you want to set up a journal alert, you just say here, I'm going to set up an email alert. And again, this is specific to Harvard Business Review, and it's all the same things as the search alert was, but this is specific to one title. So I can say I want detailed. I only want to get the alert after the full text is added, or sometimes people set one up before the full text is added, and then they set up another one for when the full text is added. It's usually a brief period in between, but it depends on the title and a number of other factors. So sometimes people want to know immediately, or they only want to know when there's full text. But then you just go ahead and save the alert, and every single time a new issue of Harvard Business Review will be added to the database, then you'll automatically get the alert. So there's a way to set your preferences. Like we've been just using what the default is, but if you like autocomplete, or sometimes it drives people crazy, you can shut it off. You can do things like change the format of the result list and have more detailed. You notice that at one point I had hit the chevron on the page layout, but you can always have it 1, 2, or 3 columns if you want. And then there's other things you can do here where you can default the citation format and you're exporting. So let me just quickly show you that. The content, the interface is available in all different languages, and the help is excellent. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it when I click into it, because sometimes there's problems with like pop-up windows, but everything that I've talked about today is in the help, as well as a lot more information about like more detailed ways to search, proximity searching, wildcard searching, all that kind of stuff is in the help file. So it's really great. What I did want to show you that I hadn't showed you yet was basically like exporting out to a citation manager. So I've done all my research. I pulled some stuff into my custom folder called functional materials. I click over to the articles, and I could be working on this for 6 months, a year, however long. And then I decide, okay, I've got some really good articles here available in my functional materials folder, and I'm ready to go out and export all of those to a citation manager. So I can just hit export here, and it automatically pulls content into, or citations into, whatever you have on your computer. So if some people use EndNote, some people use ProCite, some people use Zotero, which is free. Whether you want XML format or you want to go out to a spreadsheet, you have all of those options here. And then you can click whether you want it to remove the items from the folder after saving or not. So this is an excellent way to build a bibliography if that's something that's important to your organization. I've done it without it before, and it's a lot harder. And the format's all set up, so you don't have to worry about where the commas are and the colons are and what page it is. And as you probably know, citing an electronic resource is different than citing a print resource. So all of that comes within the product, and it's super easy. Let me just show you another interesting thing about EBSCO. I didn't show you the behind the scenes on the content, but it's worth showing you because it shows you really the quality of the what EBSCO offers, basically. So here's the title of a specific article on investing, and I can just click into the title. It's not the PDF, but what it is actually is the metadata behind the scenes. So this is really the special sauce behind what EBSCO does, is that we're doing all of this for you. So we're putting all of the different articles in the database, we're keeping track of it and collating them, we're providing them to you unlimited access, and then we're also separating out what we call thick metadata. So thin metadata would be like the title, the date, and maybe the journal title. But thick metadata means it has all of these different subject terms, it has the NAICS codes, it has the information in the abstract, could have author affiliations. Accession number is the unique number of every single article in the database, has its own accession number. So also on these subject terms, if there's an asterisk, that means that it's a thesaurus term. And so obviously there's a lot of different words that you might use for investment. So if I just wanted to click on this thesaurus term, it'll basically provide some of the different terminology that's within the thesaurus, and it's basically saying that that has to have a major description of investments, and it pulls up other content. So when I was talking about doing a broad search versus a narrow search, sometimes it really does help to just do a really broad search and then go click on some of those source terms, and you'll get additional content based on that because it's linked to other terms. Here's some of the different thesaurus terms that have to do with investing. So you can say specifically, I want information about mutual funds or stocks. And that's within investments. One thing just to point out here is that if we have the HTML, we'll put it in there. If we have the PDF, we'll put it in there. And oftentimes we have both. And more we get the PDF direct from the publisher. In the old days, we actually have to do a lot of the scanning and bring in the content, or Adobe wasn't used as widely, so organizations would just provide the HTML. Sometimes actually, if they don't have copyright to the articles within it, or like if they use freelance photographers and they don't have copyright access to the illustrations, they may just provide us with the HTML full text, and they might strip some of that information out. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're wondering, you know, why is this not exactly what I expected? Sometimes there's a background to why that's the case, and we're here anytime you want to email us or our support department. We're happy to help out and answer those types of questions. None of them are stupid. So like there is an email, support@ebsco.com, and my email is juditha@ebsco.com. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out anytime you want, and I'm happy to help. If you are kind of been talking a lot about cited references, and quite frankly don't know if those are as important to you or not, because some organizations don't use them as much, but there are cited references within some of the articles, so that's also really interesting if you're doing research, because sometimes the terms aren't actually in the article, but if it was cited within the article, it might be important background information as well, and then you can go in and look at those articles. So that's available in many cases. But it would show up right here underneath the subject terms. So that's really pretty much the overview here. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I can just show you the search history. So everything that I've done while I've been in this session is being saved in my search history. But as soon as I log out, all of these searches are lost. It's kind of like your shopping cart. When, you know, if you go ahead and save things to your ebscohost folder, it will be saved. But if you don't, then these searches will be gone. But you can actually add like 2 of your searches together if you want. So I did an investing and I did a clean energy, and then I can add those 2 terms together if I want, or I can OR them. I can go ahead and view the results from each of those. I can further edit it. Like if you wanted to say investing and specific to a certain journal like Business and Economic Review, you could add in the journal name. There's a lot of flexibility on advanced searches and how they can be pulled together. So I just said, I just added 2 different searches together here, and then I can go ahead and execute the search. That was just what you saw on the screen was the search history was showing up above the search results. So if you just click on search history, that disappears again. But this is just showing you basically the clean energy and investments search tied together. And you can see that in my breadbox. So then you can say, I don't want to apply equivalent subjects, and you can click on that. And you can get rid of some of the things in your breadbox if you want as well.
Excuse me, Judy, we have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you bulk download the search results in a CSV file?
Yes, so basically when I said share, okay, so there are a couple ways to do this. So you can basically put the citations into my ebscohost folder, but if you're talking about large, like thousands of search results, that's something that we need to set in ebscoadmin, and it would actually show up right here where it says share. It's a feature that we can add in very easily. We just click on something and it says bulk download so that you're able to do it. We don't normally set that by default because it can really, you know, take time to execute, and We don't want people to be accidentally hitting it. Sometimes people want to set up like a single username and have the bulk download available to only that user. But if it's something that you want set organization-wide, we can do that. So just either let me know now or send me an email and I can add that to your EBSCOhost profile. So
is it possible to download in maybe Excel or PDF? Because I know I've had issues where I get something in a CVS and it sends it to me over email, and that type of attachment is stripped by our email system.
When you're so let me just clarify what you're asking right now. Are you asking about the bulk download feature or 10 articles?
The bulk.
The bulk. I have to check on that for you.
Okay, because as far as I'm aware, we have an issue getting CSV files through our email system. So.
Okay. So I'm just going to flip over here for 1 second. This is EBSCO admin, and this is kind of like the way that your account is set up by default. This is specific to your account. And normal users, end users wouldn't go into this, but this is where you like turn on and off different features. So in here someplace, and I'm not positive exactly where, there is a choice for being able to bulk download content. So I'll ask support to check into that. If you want it turned on, we can turn it on. And then I'll also find out what the available formats are. But it is very easy to turn it on and off within here. I think it might even be under delivery options.
Is that something I can get into as a librarian and administrator?
Absolutely. We can set up a password for you.
Okay.
So let me just take 1 moment, Liz. When we do that, what it does is it automatically emails you a link, and then you have to look for the link in your junk folder because it goes to admin. It's from admin, I mean from EBSCO admin. So it could be in your junk or clutter folder. And then you have to click on that link and go in and set up your username and password.
Okay.
So I can do that like right after this demo, set that up to you and send it to you. And I'll just send you a quick email saying it's been sent, or keep an eye out for it because I'm not sure how quickly it happens, but it's within hours.
Okay.
If not sooner. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a summary of what we talked about. We talked about a lot of stuff. So we talked about a basic search. We talked about an advanced search. We talked about what EBSCO is doing behind the scenes and setting up citation information, as well as what we call thick metadata, subject terms, things like that. We talked about how you can set up alerts either by journal or by subject matter, how you can look at the publication lists, how you can look at company profiles. And we talked a lot about the My EBSCOhost folder, being able to export out to a citation manager, and being able to store alerts, modify alerts, build custom folders. And then I do just want to mention again that the help file is excellent. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but there's online tutorials for all of this. Support's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can email support@ebsco.com or you can email juditha@ebsco.com. And there's all kinds of online training that's available if you want, or we're going to provide you the recording of this so you'll be able to review some of the things we talked about here. But within this help page, it talks about using different folders, setting up alerts, how to print and email and export content. And it talks about the different citation styles, how to provide a URL to someone to connect to the database or to an article, expanders, limiters, booleans, all kinds of content, searching with wildcards and truncations, using what's called field codes, which is just things behind the scenes that help you navigate, like capital JN for journal, and then you can use quotes as the same thing as searching for a journal by a specific name. So there's all kinds of field codes behind the scenes that you can use that might help you narrow things down, like SU for subject, capital S and capital U. So if if you become a more sophisticated searcher and you prefer to use those terms, some people are used to that from other products. They prefer to use like AU for author, then click through the menus. So those are also available for you, and you can and or not different terms together. So that's pretty much it. Are there any other questions or anything that I didn't cover that people were expecting? Oh, all of this is available on your mobile phone too, I might add. So we do have a EBSCO app that can be downloaded from the App Store, and you can use this on your phone as well. So if there's no other questions, then thanks everyone so much for your time, and absolutely reach out to myself or Lindsay if you need anything. Like I said, I'm juditha@ebsco.com. I'd love to hear the feedback, if this was helpful or not, and I will be back in touch with Liz about the bulk download and also setting up an admin account. And we'll provide you the recording.
And this is Liz. Thank you all for attending. I hope this was helpful, and let me know if you need any assistance with this or other resources.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.